The Invisible Man was released in theaters, but then they just decided to dump it on VOD. You could just watch it on your laptop, which is what I'm doing right now. Oh, I wanted to see that new James Bond movie. Cancelled. Quiet Place Part 2, originally supposed to come out March 20th. Cancelled. Black Widow, May 1st. Cancelled. Cancelled. Onward, which just came out, it's coming on demand. Sonic the Hedgehog, on demand. Cancelled. The New Mutants, that movie that got delayed 5 times. Cancelled.
Ta-da!
Oh, wow, thanks, see? Wow, that's nice. Look at that.
I managed to see Invisible Man when it came out. Everyone was terrified in the theater. Not because of the movie, but now that we've all had a chance to see it, let us analyze. The film follows a woman on the run from her crazy ex-husband, who is also a world leader in the field of optics.
He is a world leader in the field of optics.
Shenanigans ensue. There are a lot of ways in which this film could have gone wrong. Audiences really related with this more grounded tone and emphasis on trying to be scary and disturbing, not a dumb action movie. I normally like films like this, but from the second I read the title, I was put off. It comes across kinda silly, a lot like a studio trying to revitalize an IP. While there's a lot I enjoyed about this film, such as moments of cinematography and the lead performance at points, the film as a whole was unspecial. But let's get into more detail.
Surprise.
The film starts with Elizabeth Moss trying to escape the Invisible Man. At this point in the story, he's visible. She uses her fake movie phone app to turn off all the security cameras. Jumpster! Oh, it's fake. She hits a dog bowl. Oh no, she's gotta go back for the dog. Nice. She runs to her sister's car, but for some reason her sister doesn't drive off immediately. She like waits there and tries to have a conversation about her. Like, what have you been up to?
Are you okay? I'll explain later. Go. What is happening?
Oh my god, drive the fucking car! And they drive off. A few months later, Elizabeth Moss is temporarily living with her cop friend. At first I thought, why would the Invisible Man need to burn this food? It's basically a distraction while he steals this knife, which he shows to Elizabeth Moss later on. It also sets up the fire extinguisher that comes into play later. This is much better than how they set up the ladder, which is so obvious.
Well, I knew you needed a new one, and that one just, that has to go.
That's so nice of you, C. Thank you so much.
Oh, I have this ladder. I got this ladder for you guys.
You climb them to get things like stuff like that. That's so strange. God, I wish you had like, oh wait, you could totally use the ladder.
To climb up.
Yeah.
Elizabeth Moss's sister comes over, and she's like, look at this, your husband's dead. Ah, very nice. They even talk about Adrian's little suit. Refractive projection. Ooh. Elizabeth Moss and her sister go to visit the Invisible Man's brother, Tom. The Invisible Man, or I'll refer to him as Adrian also, left money for Elizabeth Moss.
You're getting $5 million.
He could have just sent them this in the mail. They don't read off the will like that. This is such a movie trope. This never happened.
And he stipulated that I do this in person.
So at this point in the story, it's obvious. He leaves her a medication bottle that she dropped when she was trying to escape him.
I lost the bottle that night. And somehow, it found its way back to me.
Lost the bottle, you found the bottle.
He punches Sydney, and Sydney thinks she did it.
James, I did not do that. Sydney, I would never.
He ruins her job interview. He drugs her with medication.
Cecilia?
This kind of shot looks good if they attach the camera to the actor. Don't put some cheap warp stabilizer on the shot.
Are you feeling okay?
Then she goes to her sister's place, and her sister just unloads on her because she wrote her a bad email.
The email you sent me this morning.
The Invisible Man wrote the email to try to make it look like Elizabeth Moss is crazy. I don't want to see you anymore. I don't want to know you anymore. I get that she's upset about the bad email. It's possible that she could have wrote it, because, you know, crazy people do that.
The email you sent me this morning.
What email?
But why don't you invite her in, have some tea, you talk it out? No, but she just closes the door on her.
No.
So she calls Adrian's phone. She hears it in the attic. And then she finds Adrian's phone, and it has pictures of her sleeping on it. It's all Dexter! Why didn't you take the evidence out of the attic? Yeah, pick up the knife, but don't pick up the phone with all the evidence on it. This is actually the first time we see the Invisible Man, and having a loud soundtrack sting like that might have been the most appropriate point in the movie to use it. I guess Hereditary has one, that's a great movie. Then Elizabeth Moss's stunt double hops out the attic, and then he just goes to the sink and washes it off. He washed all that off his suit. You should have gone in the shower. Then her stunt double gets flung over a table.
When she goes over the table, that's Sarah, who's a superhero. And then I did the first and the last part.
Elizabeth Moss is able to get her sister to calm down and have dinner with her. She reads off the positive traits about her character.
You have this brute force strength.
Right before her character dies. Nice. Elizabeth Moss is sitting here, and her sister is sitting here. So the knife was like floating over here. So Adrian must have been like standing like this and then did a little. Maybe Tom was there, and Tom was holding the knife like this, and then he tossed it to Adrian, who's standing here, and Adrian did a little whoop, and then he tossed it back to Tom. I guess no one saw the floating knife! Oh well, she gets locked up in the loony bin, but Adrian keeps annoying her for some reason, and she stabs him.
There you are.
His mistake is that he took it too far, and he got caught. He starts fighting a bunch of nameless security guards. He's chased downstairs, into the parking lot, he shoots another guy, gets in a car chase. Goes to James's house and punches him in the face. Whether this scene ended in this room, in this hallway, or in this parking lot, it would have been the same. It deflates the horror and grounded realism of the film up to this point. They have to separate Elizabeth Moss from the Invisible Man for a little while, so that this twist makes sense. Then Elizabeth Moss comes in, shoots him, and takes off his mask to reveal it's actually Tom. The Invisible Man? Didn't she slit her wrists? Where's the blood? Where is it? Of course, there's no proof that the Invisible Man existed. The suit is damaged.
Wearing some sort of suit that you shot to pieces.
And there apparently isn't any security camera footage of him, or at least they don't mention it.
But we have a whole bunch of corroborative witnesses from the psychiatric hospital when it comes to seeing something strange.
What are all these guards doing? Did they not hear the gunshots go off? How did the security cameras not get that? Maybe the Invisible Man disabled the cameras? Or he erased the footage? Which makes sense, I guess, but that's all left to your imagination. Now Elizabeth Moss must confront the Invisible Man in his invisible lair. Is there another Invisible Man off screen who's moving the stakes in between shots? Elizabeth Moss goes to Adrian's closet to put on the invisible suit that she hid earlier in the movie, and while James is listening in, she kills Adrian. Oh, snap! Oh yeah, we sure showed him, girls.
Please, you have to help me, please. I'm with somebody and I think he's 3333 Celestial Drive.
I didn't know this character was such a good actor. That's something Adrian would do. They also didn't establish at any point in this movie that she's good at faking her emotions like that. He's more of a sociopath, not her. Is the movie suggesting that she learned it from him? She had to become the monster to beat the monster, maybe? One of her main characteristics is that she's very open and honest about what she's feeling and going through, even if it makes her sound ridiculous.
He has figured out a way to be invisible.
You know what she's babbling about?
He is a world leader in the field of optics. I know that he could do this.
You know he can build an Invisible Man suit? I wish I knew someone who was that good in the field of optics. She doesn't do a good job explaining her situation.
I can't tell you right now. He's listening.
She tries, and in the end she totally takes back control of the situation, defeats him, and then walks away. Dun, 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 the Invisible Man. A nice, clean ending. It's exactly what the audience expected to happen.
Surprise.
Earlier in the movie, he says surprise. It's supposed to be a setup for what he says here.
That shouldn't come as a surprise.
And this line from earlier is so rushed that it doesn't really have the impact it should at this final moment.
Surprise.
And then afterwards she says it?
Surprise.
What?
It was a conversation that happened really early on about, this is from an American side, that went, do you want to play the Invisible Man? And I was like, yes, I do. And they were like, but he's invisible. I know.
The backup one is hidden in the closet by Elizabeth Moss. Then Adrian goes to the hospital, attacks her with the other suit. Then he gets to his brother Tom, gives Tom his suit, and then tells Tom to go to this house and kill Sydney and James. He would kill a little girl and a father? Why? For money? Because he doesn't have a spine?
Everything but the spine.
I can really enjoy a slow-paced thriller, but if I start to be confused by the plot, it takes me out of the story. There are a lot of genres this movie is trying to inhabit. It's a horror film, it's a thriller, it's science fiction, and it's an action film. There's some good action sequences in this movie. These scenes are definitely over the top, but these scenes are really well executed. It does look like she's fighting an invisible man.
There's marks that have to be hit at certain points. And so they were very mechanical days. We had a motion control camera, which is basically a robot. And the robot goes where it wants to, where it's told to go. So you have to hit your mark. And every time we would miss the mark, even by this much, we had to go back to the beginning.
Especially in the background, I like the attention to detail. Still, I thought there was some really distracting CGI, like the waves at the beginning. Then there's this pretty dull scene of Elizabeth Moss searching around her house. Ah, an oven mitt! She sees the doors open and she looks outside. Wow, that breath looks really fake. She doesn't even look cold. Then there's this CGI rain toward the end, before James is attacked. I recently binged the entire series of Mad Men, which is a badass show.
I know cooler heads should prevail, but am I the only one who wants to see this?
And she plays Peggy Olson.
I can't stay that long. I have to go back and redo the Heinz pitch. But I guess you know that.
And she's really good at playing this obnoxious character. She's good in this movie. She should be really proud of her work in The Invisible Man. Is it possible that Universal backed this Invisible Man movie so that they can have a team-up movie with her and Tom Cruise and do a Universal Dark Universe thing? Wouldn't that be awesome? I might have found all this distracting, and maybe this hindered my overall experience of the movie. The Dark Universe hasn't really panned out. They tried to make The Mummy into some kind of Avengers team-up movie. It is such a waste of time. It is one of the worst movies I'd seen that year. I sadly do not think this movie has any connection to The Mummy. Nor do I think it's the start of some kind of cinematic universe. Blumhouse and the director maybe had the idea and collaborated with Universal to make this, which could be seen as a reboot remake of The Invisible Man, and it could be seen as part of whatever this is, but the movie's really its own thing. Or at least I hope it is. But Universal Studios does not own the rights to the Invisible Man character. A lot of the Universal monsters are just public domain. You can use the character Frankenstein, but you cannot use Universal's image of Frankenstein. Johnny Depp probably would have played Griffin if they ever made the movie with him, but instead we have these two, Adrian and Tom Griffin. This movie was directed by this guy, the director of Upgrade. I like that film. The action scenes are really unique and exciting, alongside a story that was actually good and original and didn't feel dragged out. Now, this guy may look familiar to some of you, and that's because he also has an acting career, including the Bye Bye Man. He plays this guy, Larry Redmond.
And then the Hound, that's how you know he's coming. When you see the Hound and you hear the coins.
We had a motion control camera, which is basically...
When I first saw the movie, honestly, I thought it was a PG-13. Yeah, there was a lot of cursing. It was pretty violent. Multiple people get their throats slit. Multiple people get shot. A guy gets shot in the knee and screams in pain. Then there's a POV of the Invisible Man, and Elizabeth Moss is like stabbing me and yelling when Elizabeth Moss steals this guy's car.
What the fuck?
There's a lot of F words in this. Come on, Jason Blum. Considering this is a horror film and the experience I want out of a horror film, I wanted them to take it further. Modern day audiences are not as easy to scare. Oh, I guess they are. Covering a chair with a blanket. And here we have a very tame studio movie. They just wanted it to be a fun time at the movies. Look, there's a big action scene. This ultra-intelligent billionaire guy with an invisible man suit who had basically every advantage he needed somehow messes it up. That's not scary. It's pretty easy to guess early on what's going to happen in the story. The movie's called The Invisible Man, and toward the opening, as she's escaping his house, you see all these suits in this giant lab. The camera focuses on them. It was pretty clear at this point that it would just be a guy in a suit. There goes all the intrigue for the next half hour. The final confrontation could have been really great, but I feel Adrian's character was very one note. His dumb plan was just to have a baby with her. There are better ways of going about that, but by the end, Elizabeth Moss has all the power. So what else is there to do but kill him? When she kills Adrian, she switches in and out of the invisible suit in what seems like a matter of seconds. In a film like this, I'm looking for it to be more realistic and grounded because of how it's presented. It's kind of a thriller. It's not quite as over the top as the original Invisible Man, which I also watched. I mean, this guy was just crazy.
Leave that alone and get out of here!
He was throwing bikes at people, knocking over baby strollers.
I shall kill you tomorrow night. I shall kill you even if you hide in the deepest cave of the earth. At 10 o'clock tomorrow night, I shall kill you.
Jesus Christ. The Invisible Man in this one is just like, he's just a guy.
My handshake.
It's a very surface level commentary to make this remake of a movie called The Invisible Man seem a bit deeper than it is. There's parts of this film, especially the ending, that just take itself too seriously.
By kind of centering the movie and basing it in reality and making it about domestic abuse and making it about, actually this man isn't a monster. He's not this kind of mythical boogeyman. He's a real life person.
There's no ambiguity as to whether she's actually crazy or not. No, it's a guy in an invisible suit. Like 5 minutes into the movie, you figure this out. We didn't spend enough time with these characters.
No, she hasn't explained to me why we're here yet, but being her very good friend, I know it's a good reason.
Like, yeah, the sister character, she was there. She was in the movie. Yeah, she had to be there in a scene that just made no sense, because that would never happen.
I'm required to read this.
So Adrian's dead. They want the money, but they have to go to this meeting to get the money. There could have been a scene maybe where the sister's trying to talk Elizabeth Moss into going. She's like, look, Adrian's dead. We can go there, just get some money. It'd be fine. And Elizabeth Moss is a little skeptical because she's like, oh, I don't know. You know, I'm scared of him a little bit. And that could have been a good setup for later when Elizabeth Moss is freaking out about Adrian.
Adrian is dead.
Because it's dramatic. That's right. She needed the money so she could pay Sydney's tuition, so she could put it in a letter and put it on top of this bookshelf so she could get a ladder. So they could have a scene where they set up the ladder.
The ladder's cool. Okay. It happened to just be here, so convenient.
So that later, when she needs to go in the attic, she has a ladder. And that's supposed to be a setup for Elizabeth Moss paying for Sydney's college, which doesn't happen because she goes to a mental institution and loses the money. And you never really hear about the money again. Everything about Adrian's suicide. Okay, so Tom maybe made those pictures, but at some point the police must have seen his body or something, taken it to the coroner.
There's so much out there and audiences are so smart, so you really have to have something that's not only scary and entertaining, but it's also intelligent.
Wasn't the worst or best thing I've ever seen. I could waste my time talking about a really bad movie like The Hunt, which drummed up publicity for being controversial.
You know what we have here? Crisis actors.
Decide for yourself. We should discuss a movie that's actually trying something and fails in some respects. but succeeds in other ways.
We all knew we had to do something that had not been done before. If you're gonna take on a character like this that's so iconic, you have to do something new with it.
In conclusion, if you want a good horror movie about an invisible stalker, you got It Follows. If you want a good thriller about manipulative relationships, you got Gone Girl. If you want some good action, you can watch Upgrade. And if you want more good movie reviews, don't come here.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Victor the Movie Maker. On this YouTube channel, we will go through the greatest of Russian cinema. About a film from 1972 called Solaris. Solaris is directed by Andrei Tarkovsky, one of the greatest Russian directors of all time. It follows a cosmonaut and psychologist named Chris Kelvin, sent out to investigate a strange occurrence on the Solaris spaceship, sending him on a voyage into the deepest recesses of his mind. There is a lot about this film that I like, such as the cinematography. This is a very... I give Solaris 10 out of 10 bowls of Solyanka soup.